I'll just really just do this again, just to give you a sort of a bit of a lowdown on the hummingbirds, and one or two things about it. They're called hummingbirds because obviously the sound, and as you are there, you know, you walk around and it's like these big giants sort of moving around, and these things just buzz past your ear and they fly in and out. They're able to, the wing is articulated so they can actually fly backwards as well, they can hover. I mean, they are amazing creatures, and they're very territorial. You'll see that one comes in, and then as the others say you've had enough, you know, chase them away. And the wings, they can beat from anything from 12 to 70 times per second. The heart rate can get up to 1,200 per minute. So they've got a very high metabolic rate, something like 10 times that of an elite athlete. Also the breathing rate, 250 times per minute. But they are, in spite of all that, these are banana quips. In spite of all that, they are able to live for something like 3 years, and some of them even for 10 years. This is a sort of slow motion, and again, this is the, you know, obviously these are put out so they can fuel up on this. Something like 34 species of hummingbirds, and one of them can actually, I think it's the ruby-throated, can actually travel across the Gulf of Mexico, which is 500 miles. So they can do that in one. So quite amazing creatures, really. Hence my title, Amazing Creatures. Howler monkeys. Right, we're not going to hear them because I've disconnected this, but they make this typical sort of howler sound, and they keep at it all night as well. And this one is feeding with a baby, and again these are something like 22 to 36 inches, excluding the tails, which can be equally long, and again they've got this prehensile tail. So this one was just at the side of the motorway, just feeding along, and you can see that the baby sort of tucked under there. So they're quite common. Then we go to the motmots, and the motmots, I didn't see this, Bob did, and he was quite ecstatic about this. You know, sort of they've got this tail which the male will swing to and fro, and they eat things like lizards. And this is archived, and you'll get some idea as to how the tail is used. And it's always, in the animal kingdom, it's always the male that's the more brightly coloured. So it's trying to attract the female's attention. I didn't take this myself, but obviously it swings it to and fro, so it's looking for a mate. And another mountainous area we went to was Cervegra. And again, this is a cloud forest, another one, 10,000 feet in altitude. This is, I put this in because it was one of the few bits of vegetation. You know, you can't include everything. There's something like 5% of the world's varieties are enclosed in this very, very small country. But this is quite dangerous, this is quite poisonous. And then we have the quetzal. I was looking on Twitter today, and Deborah, what's her name, off the TV program. You know which one I mean? Deborah. Yes, and she made the point that she'd seen these particular birds at Costa Rica. So it's 12 to 16 inches in length. It's got a long train of tail feathers. It's omnivorous. They actually saw this early in the morning when I decided not to get up, partly because we'd got another trek, and at altitude, this is 10,000 feet, so you know, sort of it can, you find if you walking too much, it actually can really sort of take your breath away. So that's that one. This is another bird there. Usually 1,850 meters altitude, and they're related to waxwings. Get it right. Rufous browed pepperstrike. It's passerine, so it's perching, and it's widespread, and it's often common in woodlands. Feeds off insects. Lovely tanagers. These are obviously blue-grey. Feed off things like nectar, and its breeding habitat is open woodland. And red-tailed hawk. Flight, the hawk soars with its wings, often flapping very little, so it can conserve energy. The birds of Cervegri. So we'll have a look at these. The flame-coloured tanager. These tanagers forage for a variety of fruits and insects in the canopy. The emerald toucan or toucanet. The adults are only about 12 to 14 inches in long. Arboreal fruit eater, and these were just outside the reception area, so they were quite used to people sort of being in their presence. These things also, they will take insects and lizards, and you can see that they will blend into the background quite nicely. So I managed to get them actually in the process of feeding. Toucanets, obviously, they are small toucans. These acorn woodpeckers, what they do is, you can see there's some holes there, they'll take acorns and they'll jam them into the branches so they can then come back. We've got a bit of a larder for when they're short of food. Okay. I'm only going to, okay, we're on to the hummingbirds again. I'll just briefly show you how they actually cope in the wild, and you can see that that they hover, and then that they push their beaks up into the fruit, into the flower to get the nectar. Okay, so we moved on from there, and Carrara on the coast was the next stop. These American crocodiles were just off the bridge. They don't attack large animals. They feed off fish and reptiles, and they are saline tolerant. So they will colonize limited portions of the United States. And this one is the iguana. Excellent climbers, and these are in the Guinness Book of Records as being the fastest lizard, maximum speed of 34 kilometers per hour. Dart frog, the black and green one, and again, obviously they are poisonous because they eat ants. And I managed to get some nice shots of scarlet macaws. Scarlet macaws are making a bit of a comeback in the area, and we'll see that later. And there they are, sort of hidden up there. They're found in humid evergreen forests, and they've had a problem with the numbers because people will also take them for pets and export them. So also loss of habitat. So you can see that the conservation aspects are very important. Manuel Antonio National Park, and this one again is an Araucari, fiery build Araucari. The golden silk orb weaver, that is quite large. It's about that long, and it produces a web which is 6 times the tensile strength of steel. Capuchins. Capuchins because obviously the monks with the sort of the head, and you can see that one foraging away. they will feed off just about anything. They reach a length of 30 to 56 centimetres. They are diurnal and arboreal. We've got a nice shot there. I managed to get a nice shot of a mother and baby. At night they sleep up in the trees, wedged between branches, and they'll feed off crustacea. If this is near the coast, they'll feed off arthropods, mollusks, and they're good at catching frogs. Now, I said they will feed off everything. I went and got a sort of some fruit for one of the party, and she had a bit of a problem. She just turned her back, and there it was, devouring her lunch. Squirrel monkeys, the numbers again declining. It's a very small monkey, but again it's actually starting to come back due to the reforestation. Raccoons, these were first spotted or reported by Christopher Columbus, and he described them as dog-like. And again, these are mischievous animals, and this was on the beach at Manuel Antonio, and you can see that you've got to keep your eyes on them, and again trying to get some food from there. Right, in a way, the star attractions. The two-toed sloth is called two-toed, but it's actually two-fingered. And this is how sloths spent a lot of their time. They curled up in a ball so it looks like a termite's nest or something like that. So this is the two-toed sloths. Again, it's, as I say, two-toed, it's really two-fingered. So we move off from that, and we have the three-toed. Right, and it's mainly, it's not related to monkeys, it's related to things like armadillos. You can see it's got this green appearance because algae grow on the surface of the coat, and this is tolerated. Also, apparently there's moths in there. If you've seen that, there's a program about sloths on Animal World, Meet the Sloths, and you know, so they can find up to some like 100 moths in the fur there. It's got it's spent some like 90% of its life hanging upside down. Now that's a bit of a problem. So what it's evolved is lungs which are suspended, attached onto the abdominal cavity, so they don't they're not crushed, and it's not weighed down by the lungs, so it can hang upside down without any effect on its breathing. Its stomach is multi-compartmental, so it can digest a lot of cellulose, and it actually takes something like 30 days for the food to go all the way through and come out the other end. So that's the mother. You can see moving quite slowly, just what you know, you'd expect. And the other thing is, you can see that the toes and the fingers are curved, so it can hang on to the branches, and they've got a good view. Right, two male sloths. Bit of an argument, I think, on who the parent was. You know, sounds a bit like one or two other things. But in this case, we're told that they don't, you know, move very slowly. But you look there, this sloth is actually moving quite quickly. And over here somewhere, there's another one. So at some stage, these are obviously fired up. At some stage, they actually engage. And that's really something that the guide said he'd never seen before. So there they are, and this is a sloth fight, and this is something like 20 meters up in the trees, and 15 to 20 meters up. Now watch it very carefully. Now there was a hell of a thud when that hit the ground. You could hear it, but they still kept on going, and they were actually doing that for for something like 15 minutes, and I sort of in the end went away. But they continued to fight all that time. So quite lucky to get that encounter. We now come to the bit about conservation, the Esquinus rainforest. This is in the rainforest of the Austrians. This is a lodge, and that is the area, so it's probably not too high up. And we went for a morning walk, and the caiman was out there sunning away. Right, there we go. These are cold-blooded, so they are really relatively small sized crocodiles, crocodilians I should say, and this one was just out there basking, trying to warm up. The great curassow, this in fact is a secretive species. Wouldn't have believed it in our case, because this is the male, quite striking, and of course he's trying to sort of persuade the female to go off. And when I saw them later, they were feeding up in the tree on the bananas, and the male was keeping watch. The black mandible toucan, I think we've mentioned that one before. It's got this undulating movement, and it feeds off arthropods and small vertebrates. So you can see it actually in the process of feeding there off fruit. And we went on a night walk. Start off with the white-lined bats were hanging around in the bar, just outside, roughly about 45 millimeters in length. These are frugivores, so they eat raw fruits. And the tent maker bats at night. The tent makers, because they bite on the veins, and it folds this folds the leaf over, so it's got somewhere to hide away during the daytime. And again, these are something like about 5 inches long, something like that. So tent makers, we saw the white bat, that's very similar. And then you've got various rain frogs, which were around at the time, obviously quite a wet environment. The female is larger than the male, because the male will get on the back of the female during amplexus. And near the water, so it can lay its eggs, and obviously then they can develop there. The toucan now, unfortunately you can't hear this, but this makes a hell of a racket, and this thing is only about this big, and it really does squeak when it's making a noise. And you can see that it puffs itself up. This is actually in a sort of a bowl in the leaf. And the bullfrog, these are quite voracious. They will eat small animals, but these are quite large. And the other one, which we weren't able to see, not a frog but the cane toad, also is found in this area. Ferdinand's viper, this in fact is very poisonous, and it doesn't look that big, and it isn't, but highly poisonous, and it will kill if you don't get the antidote very quickly. Stick insects, well, I put that in just to show they're not only seen in biology laboratories. The banana forest spider, very venomous. It doesn't look much, but this will kill. So again, sort of a one to stay away from. Scissortail flycatcher performs a spectacular aerial display during courtship, and we've got the again another type of woodpecker which is insectivorous. We start coming on to the part that I want to reinstate the sound. This is to do with this particular person, Michael Schnitzler. and he is in fact a world-renowned violinist, and he was once the conductor of the Vienna, the Johann Strauss Orchestra,